Hello folks, this is Pastor Mike Hoggard, pastor of Bethel Church in Festus, Missouri, and head of prophetic research ministry with another Watchman video broadcast. I'm a little somber today. Wednesday, I was angry. I was really mad. I had worked all week in preparing our Watchman broadcast for this week, and I had several things to deal with, and one had to do with the age of Aquarius, and I like to get sink my teeth into things like that and really dig out the true meaning of things and reveal secrets and everything like that. And I had all that set up for the Watchman broadcast today, but there was something that came across the news wire Wednesday that just has bothered me very much so. If you have been watching the news and knowing what's been going on in the world, this is one of those things where I literally hate to say I told you so. I had a feeling that this was going to happen. If you remember, there was a vote in the state of California. I think it was last year or the year before, I don't remember, but there was a vote in the state of California. The people, now remember, we the people of the United States of America. This government and our land and our country was supposed to be a nation of we the people. In other words, it was different. It was supposed to be different from every other nation that had ever existed in the world. It was to be different from all the monarchies of Europe. It was to be different from all the dictatorships of third world countries. It was to be different from even Rome itself. It was to be different in that it was the will of the people. One of the things that I learned in school was the motto of the state of Missouri, which is Salus Populi Suprema Lex Esto, which means let the will of the people be the supreme law. Several years ago, I think it's around 2002, somewhere around in there, the state of Missouri, the people of the state of Missouri, by way of petition referendum. In other words, there were petitions signed in the state of Missouri, and enough of them was signed so that it actually made it to the ballot of the state of Missouri. And somewhere around 80% of the people of the state of Missouri said, we want our Constitution in this state to be amended so that it defines marriage as something that exists between a man and a woman. California did the same thing. They decided that, I think it was like 52 to 48%, still the will of the people, to amend the California Constitution so that it says that marriage is between a male and a female. It was the will of the people. I think somewhere around 7 million people in the state of California who are from varying walks of life, from varying ethnic backgrounds, but they all stood up and said, this is how we want it to be in our state. Forget it. Forget it. The will of the people in this country, and I want to say this, we have a lot of watchers from all over the world. We have some in Germany and France and the United Kingdom, Netherlands. I am looking at a list of different countries that have linked into our website, and I'm even seeing China, Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. I mean, I'm seeing nations from all over the world. And you say, well, this doesn't really relate to us, Pastor Mike. Yes, it does. Because if America goes bad, you can hang it up where you live. God built this nation on the established strength of the Word of God. There's no doubt in my mind about it. But there's been a change. Barack Obama said there would be a fundamental transformation of this country. I think people should have paid attention to that, because that is what is happening right now. Here's just one of many news articles that I'm bringing to you today. Prop 8 judge strikes down same-sex marriage ban. When a judge struck down California's ban on same-sex marriage Wednesday, he handed gay rights advocates a historic and invigorating victory, but also a temporary one in a long fight that may be headed toward a showdown at the United States Supreme Court. Even as Chief U.S. District Judge Vaughn Walker's toppling of Proposition 8 set off hours of celebration in some quarters, with many gays and lesbians seeing the ruling as not just a validation of marriage rights, but of their lives in general. Take a look at it. Opponents plan to seek a reversal of the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Backers of the marriage ban said that they were confident. Now I want you to look at this. Said they were confident they would prevail in the end, and predicted that Walker's decision would energize people who believe marriage should be reserved for one man and one woman, just as the ban had mobilized gay rights proponents. Now, wow. As I read the headlines, so they came across the computer screen, I went to Drudge Report, and that was the lead article on Drudge Report. I remember being mad. I remember being very angry. The U.S. District Judge, one judge, one man, 7 million people said, not in our state. One man, a federal judge, and this really blew my top. This judge was appointed by Ronald Reagan to be in that seat. This judge is an openly gay judge. I think they knew what, I think those in California knew what court to go to. I think they did. I think this was planned. I think the homosexual rights movement in this country, number one, is very well funded. They are very smart. These are not stupid people. They have a lot of power. Probably because the gays who are out know all the gays that are still in, and they're not out. Elected officials, judges, politicians, church leaders. I think the gays that are out know all the gays that are still in and hiding. And so they have a lot of power in this country. And I was mad because I started looking ahead. This is going to set precedent. Yes, it looks like in California that just a slim majority, approved the gay marriage ban. But it was an amendment to the state of California's Constitution. And here's what's going to happen. It's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to decide whether or not the will of the people of the California can be left intact. If the will of the people of the state of California is overturned, then that will then overturn the will of the people in the state of Missouri. And in every other state that says, you can't do this in our state. And then what's going to happen? Outside of the will of the people, what's going to happen is that every state in the union is going to be forced to say marriage can be between anybody for any reason. But I don't think that they're going to stop there. The homosexual, I don't think they're going to stop there. I've read the Bible, and I've got some verses, and this is primarily a Bible Watchman video broadcast. One news article, lots of scriptures. And I see something in the scriptures here that I went from being angry to being scared and sad, because I know, I don't just speculate, I'm not forecasting like a weatherman, I know where this is all going to end. The homosexual rights movement in this country, and the sin of sodomy, and let's include everything in here, the sin of sodomy, the sin of fornication, the sin of pornography, the sin of everything that's related to that, is not going to stop until America is completely dead. Remember, lust, when it hath conceived, bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Now, somebody was talking to me the other day, and they were trying to share our ministry with somebody they knew, a pastor or something like that, and they said, yeah, that Mike Hoggard, he believes in conspiracy theories. I mean, yeah, he's just a little crazy. Okay, something wrong with Mike Hoggard because he believes in a conspiracy. Yeah, I do. I not only believe in a conspiracy, I'm going to show it to you from the Bible. Psalm chapter 2. Why did the heathen rage? The rage of this homosexual group, of all these groups, they are fierce in what they're doing. Why did the heathen rage? And the people imagine a vain thing. The imaginations of man is vanity. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together. Are you listening to this? Because that is the definition of conspiracy. When they take counsel together. They take counsel together against the Lord. That's a conspiracy. So they're meeting together. Remember in the days of Jesus, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, people on two opposite spectrums of religious thought in Israel, all of a sudden now they're grouping together and they're having a meeting and they're going, what are we going to do with this Jesus? I mean, this guy's killing us. Jesus has got to be brought down. And not only him, but everybody that follows him has got to be brought down. So look at the verse. The rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. That number one, that's Christ. Number two, all of those who are in Christ are his anointed. So not only is the conspiracy against God, but again, it's against all of God's people. And if you think that you're going to be exempt from this, the only way that you're going to be exempt from their planned destruction of you is that if you're not saved, then you're exempt. Okay? And here's their conspiracy. Verse 3, let us break their bands. I have on my finger here a band. It is something that over the years I have learned to treasure this. I haven't been the best husband in the world. I haven't been the perfect husband in the world. But over the years, this band has meant something to me. And I wear it proudly. They want to break that band. So that's why they're going after marriage. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. The cords, the binding power of Jesus Christ and the Ten Commandments, and the church says shacking up is wrong. Shacking up, fornication, living together, it's wrong. I don't care if it's your daughter and your son doing it, it's wrong. They say, you know what, we don't like that. Let's cast their cords from us. The homosexuals say, you know what, we don't like the fact that you say that what we're doing is wrong. We're going to cast your cords away from us so that we can do whatever we want to do. And that's the goal. So that's the conspiracy. Where does it end? Remember how sin progresses. They will not stop. See, now they're going to conquer marriage. See, they gained acceptance in the early 70s, through the 80s, through the 90s, and now into the the 21st century, the homosexuals in this country have gained acceptance by way of mass media. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Norman Lear, who created All in the Family, broke the ground, and there were others that soon followed that basically made acceptance of a homosexual lifestyle normal. These people are normal. They just love a guy. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Now it's accepted. In fact, now not only is it accepted, it's cool to be gay. It's cool to see two gay guys walking around, and they're just so funny. It's cool to see two gals walking around. I mean, this is like, you know, Ellen DeGeneres. I mean, she's like the hippest gal on TV. Isn't she so cool? I mean, she's funny. We like her. Not only is it just like cool. How many guys in this country watch pornography that love to see two women together? This is where we are. So they've made progression, and now they're going to dominate the marriage scene in this country. But that's not the end. That's not where they're going to stop. They're going to keep going. So I'm going to look at some scriptures, and I'm going to show you where they're going from the Bible. Genesis chapter 13, verse 10. This is interesting. I want you to look at this. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere. Before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. Before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, do you know what Sodom looked like? Looked like the Garden of Eden. I mean, there was water everywhere, and trees and plants and animals and life. There was life everywhere in Sodom. And Lot is looking at this and going, you know what? Man, if I raise cattle down here, man, they're going to have plenty of water to drink. They're going to have plenty of grass to eat. And man, they're going to make me more cattle, and I am going to be rich. And that's what Lot chose. That was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. That was before that happened. Now, that was, let's see here, that was verse, chapter 13, Genesis chapter 13, verse 10. You know, it was even as the garden of the Lord. But now watch this, Genesis 13:13. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. But, there's always a but in the Bible. And we hate those things. We hate those. We like the original statement. We like that the land of Sodom is just like the garden of the Lord. Oh, see, it's like the garden of the Lord. But the men of Sodom were wicked, sinners exceedingly before the Lord. In Genesis chapter 18, the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous. God is looking at a nation built up of men and women who they didn't have Charles Darwin's book, The Origins of Species, in their hand. They didn't have the Bhagavad Gita in their hand. They didn't have Morals and Dogma in their hand. They had this in their hand, and they set foot upon a new land, and they said, this is going to be God's land. And everything that we set out to do, we're going to do according to this book. We're going to rule over our cities with this book. We're going to teach our children in our schools according to this book. And our higher institutions of learning are going to be based upon the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what they're going to be based on. And now God looks at this land and He grieves, because it's just going the way of everything else in the world. And God looked at, God made all the little people that lived in Sodom. He made them. He fashioned them in the womb. He wrote their DNA according to His Word, and He put His breath in them. And then God looks at their despicable acts, and He's grieved in His heart. I'm grieving that way for America. I mean, this is hitting me hard. I am grieving that way for America. So Genesis 19. There came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. Verse 4, the Bible says, before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young. I've talked about on this broadcast before, if you think that there isn't a homosexual in the school building where your child goes to school, you're wrong. You're wrong. I'm just telling you that right now. The way things are in this country, I almost guarantee you there's a homosexual in the school building employed by the school district in your school. And no, they may not feel up your child, but they're there for a reason. They have an agenda. They have an agenda to get their lifestyle accepted by children, so that when that generation grows up, oh, he's just a guy. He's a great guy. And what's wrong with him, being with another man? I mean, they're married, right? That's what that's all about. The sodomite crowd wants to go after the kids. And so here they are, both old and young. Little guys. All the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them unto us, that we may know them. Because I'll tell you, and not just sodomites. So let's just say that this applies to everybody in the way of sex. When it comes to that urge in lost people, it is nearly uncontrollable. And they're constantly going around. I don't care if they're gay, straight, whatever. They're constantly going around looking for the next person to sleep with. It's all they think about. It's all they think about. They've slept with one, they start looking for the next one. I know people like this. I know people that's all they think about. I used to work in construction. So I know these guys. Always looking for the next gal to sleep with. Always looking for the next chick to shack up with. I mean, that's all they know. That's how they spend their life. So these angels come into town. What is this? First thing these guys jump in their mind. I'm going to sleep with that guy. It's the first thing. That's all they can think about. Their minds are corrupt. So it's not just the homosexuals. It is the perversion of America. That's all they want to do is just set their eyes on somebody. Yeah, I won't sleep with that. That's all they know. Genesis 19 verse 6, and Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have two daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And in verse 9, they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Isn't that what you hear? You're judging us. You're judging. The Bible says not to. The people who don't care anything about the Bible. They don't care anything about it. And they definitely do not have any plans of living their life according to the Bible. As soon as you say one thing about their lifestyle, you're judging us. The Bible says not to judge. You're judging us. And this is what they're saying to Lot. You're judging us. Here's something else. These men were so depraved in their minds. They had what the Bible calls inordinate affections. Unordinary affections. Affections that are not according to ordinance. In other words, what's ordinary or established. I mean, it's normal. In the entire animal world, it is normal for male to be attracted to female and vice versa. But now we live in a world where the affections are inordinate. They're not ordinal or ordinary. They're not. And these guys, upon being offered the two virgin daughters of Lot. They said, get out of our way. Who made you a judge over us? And so here we have a minority of people in America who said, you know what? Your bands will no longer control us. Get out of our way. We have the money. We have the smarts. We have the connections. We will do whatever we want to do. I'm going to show you what they're doing. They tried to break the door down. Genesis 19, verse 16, while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand and upon the hand of his wife and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. You ought to thank God. I'm going to stop right here. I wonder, and I don't really wonder too much, but I have a very strong conviction and a feeling that inside of practically every church in America, there are people who struggle with practically every kind of sexual deviancy in every church in America. Those of you who watch this broadcast probably in some way or some fashion struggle. Okay? You may not be queer. Okay? You may not want to go after some other guy or some gal if you're a woman. But some sort of deviancy, something that is outside of the bonds between a wife and a husband. You probably struggle with that. Lot was vexed by Sodom. It was starting to have an effect upon him. And he got out just in time, the Lord being merciful to him. So here's what we don't do. What we don't do is stand up on our moral, righteous high horse and say, God forbids that. That's evil. And you know, it is evil, and God does forbid it. But we don't stand on any moral high ground and say, well, I'm normal. I cannot begin to tell you the stories that I've heard and the things that I know has happened and is going on in churches all across this country, even with pastors. They're going on. And the problem has been all along is that we've taken all these things and just kind of acted like they didn't happen, it didn't exist, and it's not really a problem with us. The homosexuals are taking over. And yet, while there's so much sin in our own churches and our own homes, the Lord has been merciful to us. He has. And He's taken us out of that. You ought to tell Him thank you. Now look at Genesis 19, verse 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And He overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. You know, I've had the opportunity. When I was in college, I went on a singing tour with a group from the college that we were going around the country. And I remember wanting to take this tour because I would get to see the whole country. So I left this little Bible college in Moore, Oklahoma in 1985 in May. And we left that afternoon, and the next morning I was standing at the rim of the Grand Canyon, 19 years old, and I was just going, oh, that's amazing. I got to see the Grand Canyon, went through the deserts of New Mexico and Arizona into California. Got to swim in the ocean with the dolphins at Huntington Beach, California. Went up into Oregon, got to see Mount Hood and the beautiful forest of Washington, and drove through the northwest part of America through Wyoming. Had a wreck in Wyoming. What a great time that was. Iowa, Wyoming, Nebraska, down into the heartland of America, over to the East Coast, into New York and New Jersey, and up into New Hampshire, and even as far north as Maine, and even in going up into New Brunswick, Canada. What a beautiful, beautiful nation this is. I've flown over a lot of this country. I've been to several places, and I can tell you, even the deserts of America are beautiful. This country is absolutely gorgeous. It's like the Garden of Eden. It's full of life and vegetation. They're not going to stop until all of that's gone. In Genesis 19, verse 27, Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. Abraham probably remembered what that land used to look like, because he was there when Lot was looking at it and said, Uncle Abraham, that's pretty good ground. I think I'll choose that. And he was watching the smoke just arise up from a distance. And everything that Sodom and Gomorrah used to be is gone. God told the Israelites in Deuteronomy 23, there shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Stop right here. Along with the effeminization of the man in America, we have succeeded in turning all of our daughters into whores. They watch Lady Gaga. They've watched the whores in rock and roll and in film and in the music industry and in everything. They've watched these people for years. And that's what it's turned our daughters into. This is America. This is how it is. And God said, not my people. No. Not my people. We shouldn't have it that way amongst my people. God said no. So you remember what God said about Sodom. That it was like the garden of God. It was beautiful. Life was everywhere. Well, here's a picture of the southwest area of the Dead Sea where Sodom was. I don't see any life there. I don't see any little animals. I don't see any water there other than the Dead Sea, and you can't drink that. I don't see anything there. That's what the Sodomites succeeded in accomplishing in Sodom. That was the end goal right there. They're not going to stop until every breath of a life is taken from this country. Deuteronomy 29. And that the whole land thereof is brimstone and salt and burning, that is not sown, nor beareth, nor any grass groweth therein, like the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in his anger and in his wrath. Even all the nations shall say, wherefore hath the Lord done this unto this land? What meaneth the heat of this great anger? Then men shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of the Lord God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt. I had a thought just as I got ready to record Joel chapter 2. Blow the trumpet in Zion. Buddy, I'm telling you, I am blowing the trumpet right now. I'm warning. Those of you who are watching, I am warning you that this homosexual movement and this iniquity of fornication and deviancy in this country of every kind, it will not stop until they have accomplished the idea that they're going to turn this nation into rot. That's what they're going to do. And I'm blowing the trumpet. And sound an alarm in my holy mountain, let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong sea. This is not just two gay guys that want their way. This is spiritual. There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Verse 3, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. And then listen to this. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them. Before them. And behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. They're not going to stop until everything is dead in America. They won't stop. Where does that leave us? It sounds like I'm giving up. Well, not totally. Not totally. I don't think that righteousness will prevail the way it is in this country. The way, let's say the 50 United States joined together by constitutions and by a common idea that we should live free as Americans and live righteously. I don't think that is going to exist for very much longer. There's just no way. This judge overturned the will of the people. It's going to go through the courts. They're not going to stop until they get their way. So mark it down. Whether it's this time or some other time, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until they and I don't know that the November elections is going to solve this problem. I don't think so. Am I giving up on America? America as it is now? Yeah. Yeah, I'm giving. We're just breathing borrowed air is what we're doing in this country. We're already living on borrowed money, and let's look at the financial part. Really, there's no way. There is no way that we're going to pay off the debt of this nation. There's no way. There's no way that we're going to cut all the programs that need to be cut out of the country's budget in order to fix our financial problem. It's just not going to happen. There's too many people that are sucking on the vine of government welfare in this nation for it to dry up. It's just not going to happen. There is going to be a revolution in this country. The political situation is not going to be fixed. Remember, this judge that overturned this thing, Ronald Reagan put him in office. He said, "Here you go, judge. Okay, you do a good job." And boy, did he. Okay, the political situation is not going to get better. In fact, now we have the federal government suing states. We have the states going against the federal government, and the whole House is divided against itself, and it will not stand. The morality problem in this country, people are not going to wake up one day and say, "You know what, I probably shouldn't wear these clothes because they reveal too much." It's not going to happen. This is deep-rooted. I just got done watching a documentary on Woodstock. You remember the 3-day rock concert that took place in 1969? What an event it was. I see it as a uniquely spiritual event, a part of the transformation of America. So this newfound freedom that people have, this didn't just wake up overnight. This goes all the way back. 40 years in this country. It's been working on being brewed in this country. So we're not going to wake up tomorrow morning after having elected new politicians and maybe even a new president that's a moral conservative. It's already gone too far. So the America that is now, I don't have any hope in. I have no confidence in. And I sound like I'm being defeated. But the world's version of defeat and God's version is two different things. I'm a citizen of America, and I love my country, but I know where it's going. I'm also a citizen of heaven, and I know where I'm going. 2 Corinthians chapter 2. I want you to look at this verse. You're looking at a guy that I just believe the Bible. I believe it. And if God says it's this way, then it's this way. I could throw this idea of the whole sun standing still thing. Now, everybody knows the earth revolves around the sun, and it's not the sun moving, it's the earth. And yet God said the sun stood still and didn't move. The moon stood still too, by the way. I just believe the Bible. And when it looks like we are in utter defeat, and I want you to apply this not just to the situation we're in right now politically in this country, but I want you to look at your own life. How many times have you woken up one day and said, "You know what, my life is an absolute mess and I am defeated on every turn"? I've been in those places where my marriage was falling completely apart. I've been in those places as pastor where it just looked like the church is dead. I've been in those places in my own personal life where I said, Mike, you're nothing. You're just defeated. God has always given me triumphing. Paul said, 2 Corinthians 2, verse 14, now thanks be unto God, which, and I want you to look at the words here, always causes us to triumph in Christ, and maketh manifest the savor of His knowledge by us in every place. Look at the words of the Bible. Now, in the original Greek, it doesn't really say always. I just choose to believe the words of the Bible without retranslation, without going to some original arcane language that I don't know anything about. I'm just going to believe what I see here. Now, thanks be unto God, which always causes us to triumph. He didn't say sometimes. He said always. Always means always. And in every place, we're triumphing. Why? Because the victory has already been won for us at Calvary. There are zero weapons of war that can be forged against us. None whatsoever. And who can separate us from the love of God? Can tribulation? What is it that can defeat us? Nothing. And even when you come to a place in your life where it just seems like you just come and you say, that's it, I've done it. I've gone too far, I've blown it. I'll never have anything in God. I'll never be what I used to be. Even when you come to that place, I'm here to tell you, as somebody that knows, I'm here to tell you that what you saw as defeat, God counts it as victory. Because He conquered you. He triumphed over you. He stands with His feet on your head and says, I'm in charge now. Did you ever look at the Bible and see all those places where the Apostle Paul, he always writes, Paul, a prisoner of Jesus Christ. Paul, a prisoner of Jesus Christ. I am his prisoner. I used to say, yeah, because Paul was thrown in jail for Jesus. They didn't like what he was saying and preaching, so he was thrown in jail, and he was a prisoner for Jesus Christ. It's not what he said. He said, I'm a prisoner of Jesus Christ. He conquered me. He stood on my head and said, I'm in charge. The whole concept of the word Lord means that He's always going to triumph. That's what that says. Now, thanks be unto God, which always causes us to triumph in Christ, and maketh manifest the savor of His knowledge by us in every place. Even when you went out and did something stupid, God said that if you're in Christ, He will always make manifest the savor of His knowledge by us in every place. People will begin to see the grace of God flowing in the faults and the weaknesses of your life. And God will cause you to triumph. The America that is now is going to be as the land of Sodom and Gomorrah. Write it down, because it's already written down. That's where we're headed. These people are not going to stop until everything in America is dead. But remember, how did you get saved? God stopped you, and everything in your life was dead. And God said, I won. Now we're triumphing. Now we're having victory. My hope is not in the political structures of America. They're corrupt. My hope is not that we'll pay off all of our debts and we'll all have more money in America. The silver and gold doth canker. My hope is in this Bible and in what God can do. Even if there's just one person here and one person here and one person here, even if we're just scattered everywhere, God knows where all of us are. He's building an army right now of people that He has conquered. And now we are citizens of heaven. And I know for a fact that that government will never corrupt. When I say pray for America, I want us to pray for the people of America. That maybe, just maybe, through something that we say, do, or whatever, they would be turned. And when America is gone, and everything that we have in it, we have something better waiting for us on the other side of that. This is Pastor Mike. I love you, and I want you to have victory in your life. God bless you.